Hello, welcome to the Nurture Pod. My name is Iris Sullivan Dare, and I'm here with my cohort, Ginger Edwards. And this is that place between where we explore kind of what is and the ocean of possibilities that's before us as a society.
Mm, the possibilities.
Possibilities, yeah.
I like that.
I should also disclose that I just woke up from an enormous nap.
Yeah, and I'll disclose that I'm still tired from going out to a party on Saturday night. So that's what we're recording this on a Tuesday, so I don't really have an excuse, but it's very real that at 50, I'm still recovering from partying. Okay, so in this tired liminal state that we are both finding ourselves in, Iris, what are you nurturing currently?
What I am nurturing is this huge art show that I put in the proposal a year ago because I got the or even a little earlier than this. I think I sent it in September, but we were together in New Mexico on your birthday trip when I got the email saying your proposal for the show's been approved.
Yeah.
So and so like this actually the show's been kind of like on the like desire list that of something that I wanted to do for like more than several years actually. And I hang the show next week.
Mm,
So, and I'm curating it and doing work for the show. So about a third of the show is this big installation I'm going to mount. That's my work. And then there's this collaborative kind of zone that I also have stuff in. And then there's um, some stuff on the wall. So there's actually 14 artists involved
wow.
in the project, and we've been Zooming all year, and it's some people internationally.
Wow.
So it's all about um the name is Matter Reds, nurturing interconnection. Um,
Mm,
but it's what like kind of like the seed that I sent out is it's like, okay, like how do we support um basically nurture culture, but like, like how do we how do we uplift kind of the divine feminine really in these times of that we find ourselves in, and how can we take lessons from Matter, who I would say is a teacher plant for sure. um and I would say that her teachings have a lot to do with the power of collaboration
mm,
and the power of like red is such a primal hardwired color for us as humans. Like it is the color of birth. All of us came into the world in our mother's blood. I mean, everyone, every human on the planet. And and like people have been burying their dead with, covered in red ochre since before we were Homo sapiens sapiens. So so it's and I think it's anyway, so it's like this idea of creating this big red show, and it's going up election week, and the color red has been completely usurped by the fascist,
mm.
which isn't the first time that fascists have adopted red as their color, right? It's a real
It's
frequent
powerful.
flyer. It's a powerful
Yeah.
color.
Mm,
Historically it's been like there's it's been a focus of like sumptuary laws, like who gets to wear what colors. Red
mm,
has often been a color, especially like in Europe, only certain people could wear red at a certain point. And so like it which is interesting because you feel it, right? It's yeah. So like what does it look like when red is to immerse yourself in power with red versus power over red?
mm.
And what does that feel like, and how do we create a space where that you get to be immersed in power with in
Hmm.
a context of this root red.
That's fascinating. No, I mean it's really, really fascinating. Actually, I've never thought about it that way. Um, so tell me more about red, because you're talking about matter root. So I associate red with the root chakra. So it's very
Yes.
connected to me of like, and that is the lowest chakra of the body. So it's the part of us that actually touches earth. So all the way our feet, our legs, the tip of our spine. And it is like associated with, yeah, like the coming in and out of life, right? So death and rebirth and
Hmm.
menstruation, those portals where they open, right? Where it's like the life blood that brings us in and out. So you said that it's collaborative, that matter feels collaborative to you. How is that?
So, so one thing that there's not just one plant. They are, there's a whole like sisterhood of related plants in the same
Mm-hmm.
genus.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same family as coffee, interestingly, and coffee berries are red. But back to madder. So like there's madder tinctorium, which is like the red of Persian carpets. You know, it has a really strong tradition in Eurasia. So like Europe and North Africa and Turkey. And then in India, they have another one called Rubia cordifolia. In Japan, they also use Rubia cordifolia. But in the Americas, there's a different Rubia plant. And then there were wild matters that got used. So like people, one of the like cleavers, um, that just kind of grows in the woods, that's in the madder family too. And that's prickly stem, that whirl of leaves. And so all of these madder plants are they're sprawling vines, right? And so they're always growing intermingled with a bunch of other plants for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the kind of dye that they contain is one, a whole bunch of different colors, like dozens, literally. Like they're not a one trick pony whatsoever. They have everything but blue. And in order to make those colors fast and stick to the cloth, there's like a multitude of ways that you can do that. And so, but you kind of need to do that. It has to, like, you can't just stick matter and it's not by itself able to bond to the cloth. It needs help. And it
Mm-hmm.
could be the form of some other plant. So like in Scandinavia, they use rowan berries, which have an acid and a tannin, and that can help that kind of dye and anthraquinone bond. In places where they had aluminum salts, they used just aluminum. And then other places that they used plants that contained aluminum. So like there's always this like um it's always like a group effort
Gotcha.
in the dye pot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and it's interesting because like indigo, which is blue, gets referred to as like the king of the dyes. But madder is definitely the queen. And
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and so there's like and there are time periods in which entire regions, entire economy was based on madder and growing madder because the desire for these colors, especially the red, the really true red, is quite tricky to get.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to get oranges, it's easy to get browns. There's some purples that are a little bit difficult. But so like there's all these colors in it. But if you want that true red, especially if you want it on cellulose, that is like espionage and like when they figured it out, like they didn't share that. So like because it was yeah, anyway, sorry
No, that's good.
that's
It's really fascinating because I don't think anybody, well, you're have a special like wealth of knowledge about this region, but I don't think about color that much in terms of how powerful it is for the psyche to see red.
mm.
Like when we see red, anger, like talk to me a little bit about like when you're going to hang an entire show of red, like what What are you trying to evoke?
So when I think this started, okay, so I went into menopause for 2 years because of chemotherapy when
Mm,
I was in my early 30s, or excuse me, in my early 40s. Um, and then when my body started, ovulating and menstruating again, I started making these little, I was like, I feel like I should mark this so that that first time when I had this madder red scarf and I'm like, oh, like I wish I had like a little red tent to go into,
mm,
but I didn't, you know. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna make one and imagine myself in it. So I went out in my yard and I made this little installation strictly for myself.
mm,
I'm an installation artist. So I made myself this little red tent and I imagined myself in it and I photographed it. And then I just left it out there all day. And I made it with some like I think that first one I used maple sticks or something. But so then I just started doing that every time. And then I started sharing it on social media, this idea of like this um little tiny mental vacation that I would
mm,
give to myself. And the scarf is really small, right? I traveled with it. When I went to Europe, I made a tent in Europe. And ironically, I don't know if other people have this experience, but especially during perimenopause, I was pretty much, if I was going to go on a trip, I was pretty much absolutely guaranteed to have, to have my period, whether or not it was, 17 days since I had one or 60 days or whatever. So like
mm,
pretty much every trip. So I made them all every trip I went on. I had a period. So I made all these little red tents. And this idea of like how red is associated with women,
mm,
and there's traditions in which women wear red underwear as protection.
mm,
And there's just in West Ireland, they wore their traditional garment was a madder red skirt. And, like there's this idea that the before 800 or however many since I don't know five, I don't know all the oppression of the colonialization of Ireland that they were known as a very egalitarian
mm.
uh, society. Women were very strong within the society, and so where am I going with this? I see red as very connected to women's reproductive health.
Okay.
And I see red as very associated, um, like the murder and missing Indigenous women, that
Mm,
their color for awareness about all of the missing Native women is
mm,
red. Also,
mm,
it's really interesting, women's heart, like heart disease, for awareness for women's heart disease, and because it presents so differently than men, and all these women die of heart attacks. It's also red. So it's like you think about it, the color of a woman's broken heart is red.
mm, mm,
And just like, yeah, it's like I think that as people who bleed, we have a very special relationship with this color, and we're
mm,
taught to be ashamed of that part of ourselves instead of being empowered by it.
mhm.
And I just think that's very, anyway, so yeah. And like there's all like science by it, like like they put red in like McDonald's, to spark your appetite. And
Mm,
like it's in other cultures, this has been all very Eurocentric, but like if you look at, I think it's the color of weddings in India, I think. And then it's very, like it's a very lucky color in many countries in Asia, many cultures. So anyway, I don't know. It's it's so
yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that you're relating it throughout, it's a very powerful color. It does something to our brains, right? When we see
yes.
red, it is, well, it's really primal. That's what
Hmm.
I feel like. You're going back because we talk about the root chakra, and it was interesting that you brought up, like, yeah, red is also used politically as like a power color. I mean, it's a right? And it could be power over, like the Nazi flag was red, you see, well, yeah, I'm not going the
Yeah.
Republicans straight across to the Nazi flag, but yeah, I mean, it's being used in this way of like, um, not very feminine, like a very like a dominating, kind of frightening. Think of like the red coats of Britain, just like coming in, and how it made them super easy targets in a lot of ways because they were wearing this bright red color, but also that they weren't afraid to wear a bright red color. Like it's a
Because they,
dominant
yes,
statement. Like we are
yes.
powerful enough to wear this, and we're not afraid to wear it. Um, I just think it's really fascinating to think of the root chakra is a powerful, it's the
Hmm.
root. It is where we connect to our power, essentially from birth, death, and the earth. And so it's interesting to see how all the ways that gets, communicated with color, because color is one of those things that we don't think about, but it does affect us. That's what you had mentioned, like the marketing and advertising. Like we definitely do buy things that are, we're attracted to it, or it would motivate us to do certain things. We're not conscious of it. So it's an unconscious motivator in the world, like color. It acts on us on a very deep level.
Yes.
We don't necessarily recognize it. Like you spend a lot of time thinking about it, but I don't think most of us do.
No,
Certainly
no.
we don't think about where it comes from, or why it's powerful, or what it's associated with, or all the mythologies. But I do think at some deeper level we understand that it resonates with us in these certain ways. And then if it's associated with women, going all the way back to blood mysteries, and not like violent blood mysteries, but the birthing, regenerative blood
Yes.
mystery that is the female mystery. It's really interesting to have a show where you're, yeah, hanging it on election week. And so talk a little bit more about that, like the juxtaposition of the timing of it. Did you intend that, or is that just something happening?
Because of the calendar for the Story Visual Arts Gallery, um, it is like I've had another show in November because there's the membership show is October, and then December is often a certain thing. So like there's kind of like if you're not at the beginning part of the year, you're there's there's not it's not 12 months of open availability for a for
Uh-huh.
a for a for a show proposal, because some of like various shows happen every year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I knew it was very likely that I would get the November show,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I didn't want to do September because I have Indigo Fest in
Mm-hmm.
August. And anyway, so, and I noticed I did a show, I had a solo show right in November of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really interesting because I was also
Yeah.
hanging that show during, the election.
Right.
And and it's so fraught. It's the country is so fraught right now,
Yeah.
you know. And so like creating like a basically where I'm my installation for the show is kind of like being inside of a giant inside of a giant womb, really. It's like I'm making this enclosure that you can go inside
Mm-hmm.
of. Um, and there's going to be like this kind of like this like forest path. Artists have made like tree forms
Mm-hmm.
from different things. And one of the artists really he did a whole show using madder pigment for paintings of the Madonna. So like and just like the Divine Mother. And another artist did a quilt of the Divine Mother. So like
Mm-hmm.
it's and I've been when you dye things, there's still pigment after you're done. And so you can capture that pigment and make artist pigments with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which is called a lake pigment in this case. So I've been doing that every time I teach a matter class, I make lake pigment out of the leftovers. And so like I
Mm-hmm.
have an enormous amount of all these different pinks and reds. And so I'm actually going to paint one of the huge walls, and maybe if I have enough, two of the huge walls pink.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to feel so like harsh. And
Mm-hmm.
also madder has all these other colors. So not everything that everyone's made is like, this real like crisp red.
Mm-hmm.
So So I think it will feel cozy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, also cloth. There's a lot of cloth. Like how many yards? I think I'm up to about 30 yards and
Wow.
108-inch segments that are going to be hung from the ceiling.
So this is
So
like really going into your little red tent. Like you made an
I
imaginary
made
one
it.
now,
I'm
and now we're gonna
yes,
get to go into it.
we get to go into it. Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool.
Even
This
though I
is
don't bleed
so
anymore.
cool. Great. Nice. So okay, let's just get the details out. So where is this happening? When?
Oh, it will be November 9th, and that's the opening.
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of openings, as those who know me know. Um, and then it will go through the last day you'll be able to see it is December 8th.
And where is it?
It's at the Astoria Visual Arts, which is on Duane Street, 1000 Duane Street, um,
Okay.
in Astoria. And so they're open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is the opening hours for that gallery. But if you contact me, I can do a private showing. Um, and then here's a cool thing is like last summer I did all those handprints with the children at the
Mm-hmm.
and so and I just did that with my after school kids too. So there's going to be a little grotto
Mm.
of like a cave. There's this movable wall and you have to anyway. So there's going to be like a little grotto covered in children's handprints in red
Oh,
with
amazing.
matter too. So we'll have a children's reception with some of those kids privately, just with them and their parents, which
When
won't be
is
open to the
the
public
when is the opening reception on the ninth? What time?
at 5 p.m.
5 p.m. I want to come. That sounds
I
super
would I
cool.
would love to have you come.
You should all come. Everybody listening to this, please come to the opening reception on November 9th. Well, I'm excited for you. This sounds so magical.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting because in January, when I was planning out what I was going to do, I had intended to weave these 60-inch wide by 108-inch um, blankets essentially. So I got all this wool but then I hurt my back.
Mm,
So I was like, there's no way. and and there was kind of no way. It was gonna be really hard. I was like, okay, well, maybe I won't make four of them. Maybe I'll make three of them. And then I was like, maybe I'll make two of them. So like it was kind of like shifting
mhm,
over the year. Um, but I was like, it has to be if the intention of the show is to be nurturing and to be nurturing another way of doing things, which is not
mm,
like flailing yourself, then I have to be responsive to what is. And what is my body was like, nope, you're not doing that. That's totally crazy. Or
mm,
he's not crazy, just like this is not that moment. And so then I had to like pivot. But it was really interesting talking on the last time we had a Zoom call with the other artists, is like everybody got on there and you could tell everyone was like, it's not, I didn't make what I thought I was going to make. Everyone's feeling really hard on themselves. And it was just like, wait, dudes, we have to do this in a way that's loving. If we
yeah.
want people to feel loving, we have to be loving to ourselves first.
Hmm.
You can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. It's all
so
about the process,
yeah,
not the
totally.
product. Yeah.
And it was like once I really accepted that,
Hmm.
I've been actually really pretty manically happy.
Yay. There's a life lesson.
So, yeah, so and now I'm like, of course, uh, yeah, if I didn't have a brand new full-time job, like the amount of things I would do, like now my creativity brain is just like off the hook,
Mm,
like bing, 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 bing. Like like, I could be making shows for the next 10 years from what's all the ideas I'm getting right now.
nice.
It's
That's
totally
exciting
crazy.
too. Yeah.
Anyway,
I
blah,
I
blah,
think
blah.
no, it's so good. I think that that's so important. If you're going to have a show about how we create from this different place of red, like because that root chakra is very creative. And I know that when we did a matter class here, it also has this like beautiful orange red,
Hmm.
which is the second chakra. So that's like the creativity flow. Those are the two I feel like at the bottom of the body, the womb and then the root, all the way down. That those they're so closely connected. And also I've been really like tuned into them lately as well. I think that, you know, there's just something really essential about the way earth and water, those two elements, which is
Yes.
the first and second chakra, move. And we have a society that's very much in the head. So it's like way up, neck up, we're up there and we make plans and we have ideas and that's all beautiful. But if it's not actually grounded through to
Yes.
like in our bodies, our physical bodies, what they can do, what our actual capacity is, and our emotional, creative bodies. Those are and I think that those two spaces are really associated with the feminine more than the masculine in this culture, and therefore denigrated as not as real
Yes.
or important, or we should push past that and keep going. I think a lot of what we talk about when we talk about nurture culture is to drop into those two spaces and to honor them and listen to
Yes.
them. So that's what I'm hearing come through as you working in these two colors, like this color spectrum of red, orange. Like it is honoring that we are, yeah, basically we're human. We come from blood. We're gonna die. We only have so much time on the planet, and we're not here to be disassociated from our body and be in our head all the time. There's something really beautiful about slowing down, dropping things. I mean, one of the things, if you're listening to this podcast, we don't do them we don't, if you notice, they appear at irregular times. And there's sometimes we go weeks without posting. And that's just because we're busy and we have lives. And Iris and I both kind of agreed that this was going to be a nurturing process for us. We weren't going to force ourselves to make a podcast on a day when we were both like, oh, we don't really want, that is going against the whole idea of
Yeah.
the cultural shift we're looking at. We really, what comes about when we are ready to talk, when we want to talk, when we have like it's the space is so much more beautiful and conducive and harmonious that way when we're both we could be a little tired. I'm not saying we have to be at our top of our game all the time, but there is something about we're grounded into like, I'm rested enough to do this. I want to talk to you. I mean, I want to create today, or
Oh,
have
yeah.
a conversation. Usually it's like, I miss you. I actually want to record. So I think that's what I'm getting up from this. And I also think I'm just going to add in that not only we jump to the election, but before the election, there's this very big, powerful, magical portal that's opening right now called
Mm.
Halloween.
Right. Oh,
And you
it's
brought
good.
it back to the ancient Celts there with the Irish. But I do think that we can't jump Samhain here. So
No, no, no. I love it.
it
Love it.
is
Love
a
it.
major portal. And I think that if it's associated with any of the chakras, it's the root chakra for sure. It is, again, death and rebirth. And in the what I understand, if you go back far enough, this was kind of the space where the worlds, these veils between these the worlds of spirit and the world of the body incarnate on earth gets very thin. And so the Celts would do lots of protection magic at this time of the year because I mean, their whole idea of fairies and the other world wasn't exactly as benevolent. Sometimes we think
Right.
about it
It's not
like
Disney.
it wasn't Disney. It was kind of like there is powerful energy at play here.
Yes.
And we want to be protected and we want to be safe. And we also kind of want to tap into it to, work with it. So we're all, we're using this powerful energy. And I think that's still there. I don't think this stuff ever goes away. We just kind of tune our little radios culturally away from that channel. But that doesn't mean that that energy isn't still very powerful at this time of the year.
I always find it
Um,
really interesting that Halloween, I feel like in our lifetime, has really been ramped up commercially,
mm,
like as far as like and so like it's huge. I mean, people go all out decorating and it's really interesting to me because I feel like from my perspective, because I've been like really thinking about the eight holidays since I was, 18, right? So
mhm,
and that's, but that I feel like there's kind of like playing with fire, right? Like if you
Mm,
think about, from my perspective, this, any change of the seasons is powerful, like, but this is a very powerful portal, and this opportunity for connecting to the ancestors is
mm,
really ripe. And then I think about all of these people like kind of evoking evil and playing
mm,
out evil. And so like there's kind of some of that is like I think is kind of healthy in that kind of like trickster kind of way.
mm,
But then also when I think about people drinking a lot and doing a lot of
mm,
drugs and a time in which like
mm,
there are a lot of, I mean, from my perspective, I as an animist,
mm,
there's a lot of play in our world.
mm,
And when you, even if it's not that, I think everything's here all the time, but
mm,
there are significant number of people who are actively connecting to the dead or to trying to connect to other realms.
mm.
And I think that brings up more opportunities. And I think, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's a,
I think it's interesting to think about. Yeah, because like I said, the idea of ancestors and the dead, I mean, that's the beloved dead is coming more from Mexico. I think that energy of like the Day of the Dead, which is really beautiful. Like what they do is they go and they
yes,
really, it's very about ancestors, and
it's not so,
um it's not
it's
as
not so,
scary.
it's not
Yeah.
scary.
It's not
Yeah.
scary. It's more beautiful. And like there's this whole idea. And we've done a whole podcast on ancestors. So we're not gonna like go back into that, but it's very beautiful and I think very important. But Halloween, as far as I understand, is more about protection. So
Yes.
to your point,
Yes.
it was like the veil is very thin. And yeah, there's big, powerful energies available, but we're kind of like in our little human space over here, and we don't want to be, we want to make sure that we have enough, they burn these fires and everything to protect the villages, and they do a lot of casting of circles. Also, we're entering winter, which is the season of starvation and all the things. So if you were really living off the land, there's a lot of protection you're calling in too for that reason. So
In our
yeah.
bodies, it takes like, I don't know the statistics. You might know this. Like when the when the temperature changes,
Mm,
our inner thermostat, it takes us a while to catch up. So that's why people often get sick at these
mm,
seasonal transitions, because their body thermostat, and just like, like our immune system hasn't caught, it's a process. It takes us a couple of weeks, which is, why I think, like if you go to someplace tropical, it kind of feels good, but like, a lot of times people get sick when they
mm,
travel or when they come back home or whatever. And I think it has a lot to do with like, you know, we we're kind of like we get acclimated.
mm,
It's like,
mm.
and so when there's a big shift, and at this time of year, it's the days are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. It's like
Really rapidly. Yeah.
it speeds up. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like slows down and it speeds up. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like 90-minute difference in October alone. Like we lose 90 minutes of
oh my
and
God,
that's
that's a
really
lot.
big.
That's really a
Yeah,
lot.
in the northern hemisphere here. So just like think about that. Like that is like the darkness closing in October feels really
It's
significant at
yes.
these moments where it shifts a lot. And like you're right, it'll kind of even out again, but October is one of those like wow, you really feel it went from kind of, I think September is a little nice. It's like apples. And this, it's warm, and then all of a sudden October is like boom, 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 like a tunnel. Like we're going into winter now. Like this is it. And also, I think we're gonna stay with the Celts here because Halloween's kind of their deal. Is they have this real liminal space between the Halloween and winter solstice, which is in December, late December. So like there was kind of this, and they just this entire time in between those two spaces were like you're kind of in between the worlds at this point. Like there was this resting kind of ethereal vibe about this time. Like it's not just one night, it kind of extends through this whole period of, you know, very, yeah, like a very psychically open kind of dark space where the darkness gets as deep as it can. And then on the winter solstice, it clicks back again and we start to gain more daylight hours. So it's kind of like going into a tunnel or something, which I understand. Like that's like the protection of like, okay, we were going to do this, and there's riches probably to be gained from the darkness and the shadows. But and I can see that, it's we're going to do a major election too. So yeah, let's throw that in there. There's a lot of powerful forces moving. Things are going to be things are going to happen in these spaces that are transformational, and we don't really understand them, or nor can we. I don't think we can control them. But I just, yeah, I wanted to offer that out. I was like, yeah, I think your show is perfect for this womb you're creating, for us to understand that we are kind of in a rebirthing, because that's really, it's the earth is rebirthing herself. We're going back into the earth. Seeds are going to get, going into the ground. They're going to get soaked with all this rain and cold, and then they will emerge again. So it's the underworld
This
time.
is
So
it. Yeah, for sure.
it feels good. Like you've created the kind of this symbolic womb right around the time that we go inward into this space to be reborn,
I,
as a
it,
country, as individuals, and our creativity or whatever. But that's kind of what's happening.
and it's interesting, I think, because like when I think about the election in the US right now, I obviously I have a lot of anxiety. I don't know if that's obvious, but I'm really actively working to calm my nervous system daily
Mm-hmm.
about it all. And I had an interesting thing. So I've been, I started this gig and I'm going to the classrooms every day. And there's a point where I have this short video, like less than 2 minutes, about the featured artist for the month. And her words, her story is really beautiful. And I noticed that when I had kids watching the slideshow of her art, they couldn't hear her words because her art was just like so mind blowing to them. So what I started doing is I would have them while they were drawing, have quiet drawing with no talking, and I would just turn on so they could listen to her tell
Mm-hmm.
her story. And then we would watch it a second time
Mm-hmm.
with, so that they could appreciate her art and get all excited by it. And so I started asking kids, do you want to hear her story again, or do you want to have it quiet and just get to just observe her just observe the art? And it was a real mix. And so I'm like, okay, well, if so, let's just do a little vote. So had kids raise their hand, and it was, it was about a third of the class wanted to hear her words again, but like two-thirds of the class didn't. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is, and when it's like, well, I guess we're going to go with the silent version. And just looking out at their faces and the people that had wanted to hear her words again, they felt they felt that disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
They felt that like that little bit of being disenfranchised, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just a small moment, but I was thinking, this idea of winner takes all, that because I've been in co-ops where we did consensus and all sorts of collaborative policy making,
Mm-hmm.
where it's not based on Robert's rules and this kind of voting
Mm-hmm.
winner takes all model.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a reminder of like, wow, the feelings are going to be so big.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who wins, no matter,
Right.
it doesn't matter who wins. There,
Right.
because of the way our system is, we are basically piling on emotional work
Mm.
onto the nation.
Mm.
And it's like, how prepared are people to do that emotional work? And I would
Mm.
say that right now, our society, because we don't value emotional work, our society is particularly unprepared to face, which is why people can, like people, you know, it's like trying to avoid looking at what is takes a lot of energy. And a lot of people have been investing a lot of energy into what whatever the dream, whatever the story is that they're attached to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that what you said is really important. If we go back to how do you protect yourself from this, what is that we don't live in a just world. We don't, I mean, that's just what is. We We are not in the culture we would love to see in our wombs or bodies, lower chakras. Like these are not, this is not a nurturing environment for most people. We are being confronted from all sides, economically, health, environmentally, blah, 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 with challenges, right? And so I guess, and then we're in this real liminal open kind of, space at this time of year. It's a weird time to have an election, I think, to have it in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this darkest point of the year when everyone's real emotional and like kind of open. It's an interesting moment, I think, to, I don't know. I mean, there's got to be better times to, I think spring might be better and
Hmm.
energetically, like, kind of get out there and start a new thing. But like deep fall when we're in this, like, so whoever came up with that idea is not so great. Anyway, but we do it in America. How do we protect ourselves? How do we use nurturing as a protective energy for this portal that we're going into? Most natural and emotional, because it's going to be emotional, like you said. Either way you got, you're thinking about it, it's going to be very emotional. And how do we stay grounded when the energetics of the nation are going to go woo, you know what I mean? It's like we're going to be pulled energetically in all these directions. And yeah, it's just a real vulnerable kind of time of the wheel, like when really, we would be pulling in, we're going to be drawn
Yes.
out into the public discourse of what is positioning itself to be feel rather chaotic. I think there's going to be some chaos involved.
Well, and
um
all the
and they're
astrologers.
priming the pump for it right now. I mean,
Yes,
the media is
yes.
priming the pump for it because it makes good copy. We're in, like I said, the system is designed to foster this as well. Even like, I think we could do better as humans, as adults, but we're kind of also in a media stream that seems to pump this up because it's good sales and revenue for them. So with all that in play, let's have a little moment where we kind of brainstorm
Okay.
for people and for ourselves, and kind of maybe tuning into that root chakra, womb chakra matter energy. How do we using this? Because I think the other power that we have available is that if you can work with power, if you're going in without the cultural overlay and you go in with like, oh no, I am tuning into the earth, I'm tuning into the energy of right now, and I'm gonna work with it to like not only protect and heal myself in this moment, keep myself grounded, but like do that for whoever I come in contact with, right? So be the healing. Like what occurs to you? Like how can we do this?
I think get ye outside is
Mm-hmm.
one. And
Mm-hmm.
I think remembering to breathe. I almost feel like I want to put post-it notes all over my house that say deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, even if you have a meditation practice, that's great, that 30 minutes in the morning or whatever. But then it's like the rest of the day, I went in for body work, the continuing saga of my back
Mm-hmm.
today. And when I walked in, she's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. She's like, stop. And then she's like, just like going around my body and being like, okay, that left shoulder is like real. She's like, there's a bunch of tension
Mm-hmm.
there. And look at this and how you're holding your hip. And that's like a leveraging for a little, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, people that have body wisdom are so astounding to me. Um, but it was like, oh yeah, like, and I realized it's like I, I think I personally need to check in with my body. I kind of think I want to set there's a Joe has it's the Navy watch bells. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like every 20 minutes or half an hour, I can't remember. Anyway, it has this ding 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 thing. It's kind of a nice sound. It's like an app that I have. Um, but yeah, I think I'm sorry. I'm making this up as we go along. I think I need to turn on the bells so that they're making sound during the day. And I need to, every time I hear them, I need to take some deep breaths and just do a body scan and re-earth myself, re-ground myself. Because I think if I just get, and then I like, you can just, I don't know. Sorry, that was a
Yeah.
big blab.
No, that was good. I mean, well, you said two really important things that I heard. It's like, first of all, go outside and be in nature, earth element, absolutely. And then body, checking in with your body. Like, how are you breathing? How are you holding your shoulders? Like, is there a little something that you can, build into your day to like check that off every hour or something, where you just take 1 minute to be like, okay, what, yeah, how am I holding my hips? Am I clenching my jaw? Like, what's going
Ah,
on? And really consciously creating that as a protection mechanism. I'm going to keep bringing that word back in, but I really feel that. And we're protecting ourselves not from like, I'm going to say from other people, I'm going to say from just the real openness of this time of year. Like, it's real, like it's just really open. Like, there's the energies are just really big and open. So just to kind of create a container for yourself that feels like grounded and safe, and like you can move through the world without getting pulled one way, pulled off of your center. So I
I've
would
been
agree. I would
I've
agree
been
with that.
using like plant oils a
Mm,
lot recently,
mm-hmm,
and you and I have this thing with pinion, but I have this pinion pine salve, and I've been
mm,
rubbing it like down my
mm,
front of like my belly up, to my heart chakra,
mm,
like is kind of just like a yeah, and there's a lot of herbs like putting just some drops of tincture in your water bottle. So
mm,
like I think of like herbs like yarrow is as a really strong warrior protection herb, and like especially even just like thinking about how do I protect my immune system
mm-hmm,
right now, because your immune system is more open because it's transitioning. So like
mm-hmm.
can like people that like reishi mushroom, or like what
Yeah,
what um which herbs, how can you be incorporating plant allies
yeah.
into your to
Mm-hmm.
your just your daily practice?
Yeah. And like, I think like for me, it's like warming food, like grounding, like soups and
Mm.
stews and Yeah. I've been hunting mushrooms in the woods and it's so fun. And, it's just so magical to come across a giant king bolete or something and be like, whoop.
They're
They're
huge.
so huge. And so if you, but yeah, just getting out in nature, but yeah, any like apples, things that are just seasonal that just kind of bring you into the energetic and
And pumpkin
sleeping
seeds,
and
pumpkin, oh,
sleeping
sleeping.
because
Yes.
this is a really potent time for dreams. And so taking time, like slowing down, I think is what, also the earth is slowing down. Like, don't feel like you have to take on a million things. This is not, you're a cast your ballot and then slow it down. Like, this is not a time to be trying to take on a million extra tasks, or, it's really a quieting and coming back in to self. And it's a good reminder. This podcast is a good reminder for me to be like, yeah, right. Because I've been feeling tired, like I said, and I equate it to being like, oh, I went out and partied a couple nights ago. But honestly, I think I'm just feeling tired because there's a lot of energy up, and it takes a lot of energy when you're kind of walking through these vibrations to look at your to-do list and be like, oh, I've got to do this normal thing today, when everything is kind of you know
Isn't
there's a
it
lot of
I think like this idea that I feel like I talk about this incessantly, but like really deeply recognizing the need for recovery time.
mm-hmm, yeah.
But I think it's just like what you were just saying of like seasonally, our bodies, we're not hibernators, but we
Mm,
do require more sleep in the winter, you know?
absolutely.
And it's
Yeah.
like we just do. Like, it's
Mm,
like be, we're not getting that solar power that we get in those long summer days. So like just recognizing what is in a
mm,
society that doesn't allow, like tries to separate you from your body is
absolutely.
is like, yeah, it's like a constant discipline to be like, wait a minute, what does the body say?
Yeah.
Ah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, I think that that's so important. And also your soul. I'm just going to throw in the soul in there too, because
mm,
they talk about the soul and the spirit being two different energetics, and I think of it as The soul is like the descending energy. It's like the root. It's like the one that wants to go down into the darkness and the mystery um and like soul music, it's just like it's a different vibe than spiritual music. Spiritual music's like, yeah, it's like up
Uh,
here, ascending, top of the mountain, light, 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 which our culture likes. It likes to go up there. But this is more like, yeah, that magical dark soul space, which is very much matter, root, goddess, womb. It's like, and our culture doesn't do that very well. It associates that with, scary.
mhm.
And darkness was scary. And yeah, I think that there's real power in that to just tune into your soul and like what do you really feel like doing in that level, you know not what your
And
brain tells you to do, or not even what's spiritually appropriate to do, but like what would feed your soul, like what kind of music, what kind of food, what kind of color, what kind of you know any of that. Like I just think that this is a really good soul nourishing time to tap into that. What does my soul want? What kind of
it,
books, what kind of poetry,
uh,
what kind of people, what kind of time of day do I want to be? It's like, see if you can feel the difference between your spiritual practice and your soul practice. Because I think oftentimes I don't want to do yoga. It's probably for lots of reasons.
mm,
I love yoga. I don't know. I have the hardest time doing yoga sometimes. And I think it's because, yeah, I think it's the energy wants to be more soulful. So I'm gonna try to experiment with more like just like movement, like slow movement, like dance to music instead of
mhm.
holding asana and that meditation space, which is beautiful and I love it sometimes. Right now I don't feel like doing it, and I've been trying to force myself to do it and it's not working, so my body's getting progressively sorer as I don't stretch. But I'm starting to feel, the other day I was like, well, what do I really want to do? And I love dancing. Like I want to dance, but I want to do it slow and like stretchy,
Mm.
and so I'm just going to try to track that. I've tracked a couple of women online down who offer that, and so I'm just going to start playing with that and see if I can just move over to a different space and see if that feels good. So
I do. I feel like yeah, I love that. I think it's like thinking about there being right ways to move and wrong ways to move or whatever, but really it's like your body just wants to move. And like that's this whole thing with my back. I know I keep talking about it as though it's like I invented the world by
I
this
totally
lesson.
understand.
This lesson.
Yeah.
My analogy is that like I got pulled over by the body police and they gave me a
Mm-hmm.
warning instead of giving me a really expensive ticket. And so
Mm-hmm. Good
I
job.
need to slow down on this
Mm-hmm.
road.
Yep.
Like otherwise I'm going to jail.
Yep.
I do
And
not
nobody
want
wants to do
to.
that. Yeah.
Nobody
You don't
wants
want
to
to be
go to
put away
jail.
for a while. That's a bad
Bad juju.
consequence for ignoring. Yes.
But
So,
that she was talking about, what were we talking about this? Like, oh gosh, I'm not gonna remember the word for it. There's this fluid that when you move a
oh
joint, it
yeah.
makes this sinethus or maybe I
I
can
want to
look
say
it
it's
up.
like synovial or
It
something.
is, it is. That's exactly the
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. I
Isn't
think
I had no idea about that. It's so cool.
yeah, I think I know that from Brigham going through massage school.
Oh
I think
yeah.
that's how I know
It's like,
that.
whoa.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I kind of want the thing. I know we're kind of like in a happier space, but I think that the fear is like figuring out how to, instead of just saying, like instead of just stuffing it, like I want to figure out, I just want to acknowledge to myself that's like, oh, that's what's going on. I'm feeling afraid right now. So
Mm,
like I've been like, it's like, okay, well, what will help me, how will I feel safer, you
mm,
know? And like I don't know, just the other day I was taking a nap and I heard something and then I was like, oh, what was that? And so then I realized, you know what, I'm just gonna get up and lock all the doors, including the back door.
mm, mm,
um because it's like then I can just relax and go and sleep, like
mm,
I wake up super early, so I'm a napper because
mm.
I wake up at 3:30 every morning, and so I get to take a
Yeah.
nap.
Good.
But like just realizing it's like, oh, like what you're saying, like it there's a lot of energy going around, and it may be
Yeah.
my energy or maybe just the energy going around. And
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you have like energetic hygiene? And I think and acknowledge when it's like, oh, my body's like, part of the being in this
Yeah.
sympathetic nervous state is
Mhm.
kind of getting swept up in fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah, I mean that brings up the really good point of fear because if you look around at Halloween, like we really amp fear in this culture. Like we lean into things that are scary and we want to be scared and we create haunted houses and like like this whole scary horror movies and like it's very interesting that we create that, right? Because
Yes.
um I almost feel like our culture there is this well, it's very root chakra, by the way. Fear is like one of those basic primal, like yeah, back of the spine kind of fight or flight emotions. But it's like we are going back to like this is a really scary time. We don't live in a scary time. We live in Costco and like bright lights and like, everything is known and like written down and online. So we are generating this ancient fear for like fun. Like we want to be scared by the unknown. We want to be frightened so we can be like, oh, like it's like something we're evoking in the culture, which is so interesting to me that is like we want that because maybe it's harkening back to this like old sense of what feels right,
Normal.
right. Like we should be scared this time of year. Like this, there's energy around, and so we yeah, I think it's fascinating to see our culture like playing with that. And I'm not really big into horror movies or anything, but I have been listening to murder mysteries on my phone.
Did you ever,
Strangely.
is that book, what is his name? But he's talking about like our brains get used to an emotional state.
Mm,
And then our bodies, like we're reinforcing that's okay, this is what, because it's like, it's kind of part of our regulation system. And
mm-hmm,
so if that is calm, joyful, whatever,
mm-hmm,
or if that's resentment, or if that's anger, or if that's fear, it's the body's like, okay, all right, let's regulate there. And so it's
mm-hmm.
like you're reinforcing it. So it's like, in a way, they're describing he's like, we become addicted in a way to our emotional um
Yep,
whatever it is that our norm is. And so
yep,
if you want to switch from being resentful or angry or fearful or whatever, or victim consciousness or whatever, like you're needing to rewire. Like
yeah,
your brain has become entrenched in that state. So it's no small task actually to
yeah,
like to pivot. Like we
mm-hmm.
think of ourselves as so quick and changing and stuff. It's like actually it kind of is,
No,
it's
I
like
don't
think of
think so.
it's
Yeah.
not like think about like trying to train a fruit tree.
And also, I think that again, I don't have to harp on this, but I do think that there are energetics that are beyond us. Like, yes, we think of ourselves as so modern and then, we can change our circumstances by like putting concrete all over everything and building a house and locking our doors and everything. But I do think indigenous knowledge is very tuned into what's actually going on. And if there is kind of a liminal space that opens up in this time of the year, we're sensing it. At some level, we do sense it. And we don't know what to do with it. It's kind of freaking us out. And then you throw an election in there, great, whatever. That's easier to think about in lots of ways. At least we can
Yes.
lock into then our brain gets in there. Like, oh, but we can think this, we can have judgments and thoughts and arguments and all the things. Much easier for us to be in that space than to actually be riding the broom, so to speak, of the, energetics of what's of this kind of unknown, of the unknown.
Well,
Things
do
are
you remember?
dying, things are ending. We don't know what's
Yes.
next. We don't know what's coming through. This is it's a mystery of life. Like these goddesses of this time of year are like death and rebirth. They take things out, and you don't know exactly what's going to come out of the magic cauldron next. It's all being
Yes.
transformed. We don't know what nature's going to do. We don't know what's going to happen, and that's the deeper fear that we're not in control. our brain loves to be in control. We are not in control of nature. The earth, is it's doing what it's going to do. And so we are here for the ride. And so to find your own way to ground and tune into your own inner like wisdom and intuition about how you are a part of this healing and change, however it looks, that you could be tapped into like an energetic of healing and change and transformation that's positive for you and the people around you in your community. I think that is where the magic of this time is, and it's all we can do really. And I think this is a good time to be putting that practice into your world, whatever that looks like for you,
Yes.
um, whether that's writing or, making a podcast like this, or, doing your dance or hanging your art show or whatever, whatever it is, or maybe just resting and not getting, super pulled into the drama of everything around you, and just finding your own root, your own ground. Be the queen matter herself, right?
Yes. Who is flexible, right? But
Mm,
also protected. She's very prickly,
mm,
right?
mm-hmm.
So
And works
she's
in teams. It sounds
and
like
works,
she's got,
yeah.
yeah, collaborative. So
That
that's
is,
another thing we should remember, that, people gathered at these times because aloneness didn't feel safe, so reaching out to other people and, going to things and, being a part of it, but whatever feels nourishing and good and grounding to you in the community is
yeah.
beautiful too. Yeah.
Oh, mama. And light a candle.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did
Light,
do a whole show on ancestors. So if you haven't listened to
yeah.
that, that would be a good one to maybe listen to right around now. Again, because there's all kinds of beautiful practices you could, invoke around your ancestors and connecting to you being the ancestor for many generations to come. And it's not about an election cycle. It's about 7 generations down the road. Just remind yourself that this is not just one thing. There's many, many, many lifetimes ahead that we're working on here, planting seeds for much longer cycles than a 4-year election cycle. So I think it's all happening. I think we are putting down those roots to nourish those bigger cycles, even if it feels like we can't see it yet.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And because I write stuff down, when I go back and look at stuff that I wrote, it's like, oh, that like
Mm-hmm.
I think if we don't have a practice of writing things down, it can be easy to lose track of
Yeah.
all of the things that kind of, yeah, come to
We do
pass.
manifest.
We
Yeah, we do
manifest
manifest. Yeah.
constantly and we just kind of forget about it.
Yeah, because it becomes normal. But yeah,
I'm
we're always manifesting change in a like positive way. I mean, so many positive changes are happening
I
all.
mean, even a grocery list is manifesting.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is.
and it's like if you think about it, I don't know. I think it's like and any action has the potential to be magnified with intention. So it's
Spell
like,
work. Yep.
so it's like, yeah, the more cast away, my friends. Your vote is don't just put it in the drop box. Put it in the
Mm,
drop box with a lot of like
yeah.
a lot of blessing and a lot
Mm,
of like
mm-hmm.
push.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we can cast spells everywhere we go. It's all
They're,
about intention. Be little
they're,
witches. Be
they're gonna
witches.
come for us. I
I'm
think
sure I.
they have. Yeah, I've already done that. I don't need to do that this life.
Yeah, right. Oh, I love
Um,
you. Happy Samhain.
oh,
Happy
happy Samhain.
Halloween. Happy
Happy New
Halloween.
Year.
Happy New Year. And everybody out there, it is so beautiful to be in this moment with you. So I know we know it's like there's a lot going on, but you're not alone, and none of us are alone, and we're all setting this intention together. So it's not just like you putting it out there, millions of people
Yes, yes.
around the world too, beyond our seeding intentions for a much more beautiful, grounded, healing future. So just
Peace.
remember that, ground into that, put your roots into that, and find your stability there. I think that's what we can all. I think that's true. I think that's truth, and I think that we can all feel that when we tap into it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yay,
and
Mama. I love you.
I love you.